Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Where Is Podcast. My name is Lauren, I am 24 years old, and I am so excited to be starting this podcast journey. I've been wanting to start this for a while now, and it's finally here. So yes, again, I'm very excited. But before I actually get into my very first case, I wanted to just go over what you can expect from this podcast. So, my main goal for this podcast is to cover missing person cases, but specifically focusing a lot of my attention on minorities who have gone missing. So, if you guys do not know, there were over 203,000 missing minorities in the United States in 2018 out of a total of over 612,000. Now, 40% of missing persons are people of color, and just remember that African Americans only make up 13% of the population. Now, as far as the Hispanic and Latino community, it's kind of hard to say how many are missing because when it comes to missing person cases reports, the FBI groups white and Hispanic children together. But according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, roughly about 20% of missing children are Hispanic or Latino, but the real number is likely a lot higher than that. So I just really quickly wanted to go over a few reasons why we don't really hear about a lot of these missing person cases. So one of the main reasons is families may be a little hesitant to call the police because there is a sense of distrust between law enforcement and the minority community, as well as some people just being too scared to speak up because it could lead to negative consequences. For Hispanic and Latino children, some family members may be undocumented and have a fear of calling the police out of fear of being deported. Now, another main reason is because of media coverage. There was a study that was done in 2010 that showed that African American children were significantly underrepresented in TV news. And we all know that media coverage is extremely vital when it comes to helping solve these cases. Another reason may be due to resources. Some families may not have the financial resources as far as hiring a private investigator or even just being able to take some time off from work to help search for their missing loved ones. Some people honestly just might not know what to do, and there is a huge misconception that you must wait 48 hours before you can file a police report, when that is far from true. The time periods do vary by state, so I would highly recommend looking up your state's time period for when you can file a police report. I know there are a few Facebook groups out there that families can utilize as well if a loved one does go missing because, again, a lot of these cases just don't get the same type of support and coverage as other cases, which is just extremely sad and very disheartening. But the last reason that I wanted to discuss is that a lot of these missing children are just labeled as runaways. Law enforcement often classify children of color as runaways, even when family members are insisting that that is just not the case. And I mean, you would think a parent would know their own child, and even if they did run away, why are you still, just not looking into it if the parent is pleading that their child is missing? So again, the first 48 hours someone goes missing is the most crucial time, and some families just get that precious time taken away from them, all because law enforcement sometimes just don't take things seriously enough. So again, I just wanted to go over a few of those reasons for you guys just to give you a little bit of a better understanding of some of the stats and why you may not hear about a lot of these cases. Now, I do want to go ahead and jump right into our case, but before I do, I just wanted you guys to know that there are a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to this case, so there really isn't a clear timeline in regards to some of the events leading up to her disappearance, as well as after her disappearance, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So with all that being said, let's just jump right into the case. So today we will be talking about the disappearance of Kierra Kohl. Kiera was born on September 24th in either 1991 or 1992 to her parents Karen Phillips and Joseph Kohl, and she was only 26 years old when she went missing. She had 4 siblings, but Kiera was especially close to her mother. Kiera and her mother would talk every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and she was always letting her mother know what she had going on in her life. Now, at the time of her disappearance, Kiera was working part-time as a letter carrier for the United States Postal Service, which she had since April of 2017, and she would fill in as needed, but she would also drive for Lyft part-time as well. Now, Kiera's mother said that she had a goal of buying herself a new car as well as getting her own apartment, and just a few months prior to her disappearance, Kiera actually accomplished those goals. She had gotten her own apartment and she had purchased herself a new car. Now, this was also the same year that Kiera became pregnant with her first child with her boyfriend Josh Simmons of 5 years. Her mother stated that she was already excited about becoming a mother and that all she ever wanted to accomplish were her goals and to become a mom. Now, although Kiera and her boyfriend Josh were having a baby, Josh also had another girlfriend at the time who he already had children with, but Josh's girlfriend was said to also be pregnant at the same time as Kiera. Now, Josh also had a child with a third woman as well. Now that we have covered some of the background, let's get into the disappearance. On October 2nd, 2018, Kiera was seen on a neighbor's surveillance camera leaving her apartment on the south side of Chicago wearing her work uniform.
Search for a pregnant postal worker who vanished in Chicago without a trace more than 2 weeks ago. Police releasing this surveillance video of Kierra Kohl's showing her hours before she was reported missing.
Now, in the video, it looks like she is walking towards her car, but Kiera continues to walk further down the street, and this would be the last time that Kiera would be seen alive. Now, as we know, Kiera and her mother talked every day, but when her mother tried calling her, her cell phone kept going straight to voicemail. So on October 4th, when her mother hadn't heard from her in 2 days, she knew something was obviously wrong. So Karen and a few other relatives decided to go by Kiera's apartment to check to see if she was there. And she also contacted Chicago police to do a welfare check. But Kiera was not home, and this is when they found that Kiera's car was still parked in front of her apartment building, and they discovered that her cell phone, her purse, her prenatal vitamins, and her lunch that was packed were still in her car. And because of this, her mother decided to file a missing persons report. After filing the report, Karen said that she decided to call Josh to let him know about the missing persons report, and apparently after that, Josh just completely vanished and no one could reach him. Chicago police stated that her belongings were still in the car and they suspected that foul play was involved. Kiera's sister Kimberly says that she last saw her sister when she had picked her up from work October 1st. Kiera was very active on social media, so her sister decided to go to her Snapchat to see if she had posted anything, but there was no activity from Kiera. Now, Kiera's mom said that she had actually spoken to her daughter the day before her disappearance, which would have been October 1st, and that she seemed perfectly fine and that she was asking her for advice on the best milk to drink during her pregnancy. She also told her mom that her boyfriend Josh was planning on coming over that night on October 2nd. So with Kiera still missing, Karen decided to call her job, and they told her that Kiera actually called out of work on October 3rd, the day after she went missing. Now, Kiera's mother Karen wanted to look further into this just to confirm that Kiera was actually the one who called out of work. So she was able to get access into Kiera's car and access to her cell phone, but she was unable to get it unlocked because of the passcode. But the worker that Karen spoke to was pretty certain that the person that had called was indeed Kiera.
The locksmith pretty much came and he got in her car for us. And I moved her jacket and her cell phone was sitting right there on the seat.
Now, I want to go back to the surveillance footage for a minute. Again, in the footage, Kiera isn't seen getting into her car to leave for work, but all of her belongings were indeed inside of the car. Now, Kiera's family, as well as Kiera's mother's boyfriend, whose name is Dan Perkins, strongly believed that something must have happened or scared Kiera enough for her to walk away from her car and away from the path that led up to her apartment. But now the family is no longer sure that the woman in the surveillance footage is Kiera, and that is because of the clothing that the woman is seen wearing in the footage is a little debatable. Some people feel that the clothes the woman is wearing is indeed a U.S. Postal Service uniform, and others are just not quite sure that the clothes actually look like a typical postal uniform worn by postal workers. Police have tried to find more surveillance footage from the area that she disappeared from, but have been unsuccessful. Kiera's family, friends, and coworkers all began to pass out flyers around the neighborhood and gathered together to help search for Kiera. Now, at the time, Kiera's father, Joseph, was living in Wisconsin, but he actually quit his job working at a factory and moved to Chicago to help search for his daughter. Joseph was extremely invested in searching for his daughter to the point where he was living out of his car for some time, which he had parked right outside of Kiera's apartment, waiting for her to return home.
I'm knocking on doors, I'm kicking in doors, I'm climbing bad the building, I'm digging in garbage can. I need to know where my baby is.
Now, as far as the police goes, they had spoken to a few people that knew Kiera and had interviewed those who would have known about Kiera's schedule and what she had going on at the time of her disappearance. Following her disappearance, investigators conducted searches for Kiera throughout Chicago, and in November of 2018, volunteers had gathered to search the Whistler Woods Forest Preserve, which is in Riverdale, after police received tips that the forest could be relevant to the case. Some bones were found and collected by detectives, but they have not revealed whether the bones are human or animal remains. Now, that is all the information that we have on this case. Chicago police have suspended their investigation, but Kiera's family have not stopped looking for her. Now, I want to get into the theories. So, the first theory is that Kiera's boyfriend Josh is responsible for her disappearance. Now, the reason why is because of Josh's behavior after Kiera went missing. It's reported that Josh completely up and moved to another state with his girlfriend and their children. And remember, Josh really showed no interest after Kiera's mother called him and told him that she was putting in a missing persons report for her daughter. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if my boyfriend's mother called me and told me she hadn't heard from him, he hadn't shown up to work, and he wasn't home, I definitely would have been freaking out. But investigators still have not revealed whether or not Josh has been questioned, but I do believe that this theory is definitely a possibility, and I don't know why investigators are not questioning him if they haven't, because just the timing of him moving and the fact that he just hasn't been involved is very fishy, let alone it's not just your girlfriend that's missing, it's your child. Now, following this theory, many people believe that the woman in the surveillance footage is actually Josh's other girlfriend who was trying to sort of disguise herself as Kiera to sort of throw the investigation off, which I'm honestly not too sure about this one, but some believe that maybe she was just jealous of Kiera and jealous that her boyfriend was going to be having a baby by her and by Kiera pretty much at the exact same time. Now, the second theory is that Kiera's mom's boyfriend, Dan Perkins, is responsible for Kiera's disappearance. Now, Kiera's mom and Kiera's sister have both completely shot this theory down and the idea that Dan could have had anything to do with her disappearance. Now, I'm not sure what type of relationship Kiera had with Dan. I don't know if they were close. I don't know if she even knew her mom's boyfriend like that, but we honestly don't know. All the information we have really is the surveillance footage, and even then, it may not even be Kiera in the footage. Another theory is that Kiera went missing due to gang violence. The neighborhood Kiera lived in was not the greatest. There was a lot of gang violence, poverty, and crime, and some believe that maybe something happened to Kiera that was gang related, but Kiera was not known to be involved in any gangs or any drug activity, so this theory is highly unlikely. The last theory is that Kiera left on her own accord and she just simply wanted to start a new life. Some believe that this theory could be true because some of her family stated that Kiera could have gotten overwhelmed with everything that she had going on in her life, but I just don't believe that Kiera would just up and leave her entire family. I mean, she absolutely loved her mother, and I'm sure her entire family was excited about the baby as well. So again, I just don't see this being the case. Now, Chicago police have suspended the case, but the case can be reopened if enough evidence is brought forward. Kiera's mother, Karen, did speak out and say that she honestly feels like the police just put her daughter's case to the side out of frustration for not having enough evidence. And this is why I really wanted to start this podcast, because the more people who are aware of these cases, the better chance we have of bringing them home.
Just make me feel like y'all working on it. But now I just see that they put it to the side. Well, we get some, we get some. If we don't, we don't.
It's been 2 years since Kiera's disappearance, and her family have not stopped fighting for her. In January of 2019, her family and her coworkers held a visual for her outside of the post office she worked for, as well as having a balloon release on the 1-year anniversary of her disappearance. Her mother and her father are still continuing their fight for their daughter, and I encourage you guys that if you know anything or have any information at all, to just please come forward. You can contact the Chicago Police Department's Area South Special Victims Unit at 312-747-8274, or you can contact the U.S. Postal Inspection Service at 877-876-2455. If Kiera is alive, she would be 27 or 28 years old. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 foot 4 inches and about 125 pounds. She has black hair and brown eyes and has a Lucky Libra tattoo on her back and a heart tattoo on her right hand. Again, if you guys know anything, I highly encourage you to speak up, but that is all I have for you guys today. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I will see you on the next episode.